Before I go to bed tonight, I have this bag of beans, and it's a 15 bean soup. And you know, my mouth is watering for some good bean soup and some cornbread. And so the traditional method is to place the beans into a bowl the night before, fill it up with water, and let the beans soak overnight. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Keep this in mind, the beans are not clean. So as you can see, they're giving off some of the gases as they get touched by water. There's a lot of dirt and dust that's down in there. And if you spot any beans that look a little funny, be sure to take those out. I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme. And here in the kitchen, we are doing what home cooks love to do, and that's cook. And so what we're doing is that we're trying to stay within our budget and to build a repertoire of budget-friendly, easy meals that we can put together. Because, you know, the closer to a $5 meal that we can get, then that means that if we want to have something really special on a particular night, it's not a big deal because we've been able to save that money. So that's what we're doing. Tonight's dinner is a $5 dinner. And I'm going to total it up with you. We're going to put it together, and you're going to be so surprised how delicious this meal is going to be. And you're going to love the fact that it's a money saver. Now, we have had a chance to soak our beans all night. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to get them well rinsed, and then we're going to place them into our crock pot, add the rest of the goodies that need to go in there, and we're going to have a vegetarian 15 bean soup. It's the best. And you know what? It's homemade. Now, you know, for information's sake, I'm going to tell you all of the beans that are in this mix. It contains northern beans, those are the great whites, pinto beans, large lima beans, yellow eye beans, garbanzo beans, baby lima beans, green split peas, kidney beans, cranberry beans, small white beans, pink beans, small red beans, yellow split pea, lentil, navy white kidney beans, black beans, and it comes with a little seasoning packet that we're not going to use. This is called ham beans. That's the name of the brand, but we're not going to use this little ham flavoring packet because we don't want any ham in it. We're going to make sure that it's clean. This is January. I'm trying to clean us up, get us back into our vegetable mode. So because of that, we're going to take this and we're going to put it into the trash. Now, you know that there are some things you should always have in your kitchen. An onion is one, or at least a bag of onions. So we're starting with onion, and we're going to get that diced up. This is one large onion because we've got quite a few beans here. And remember, we're not using the seasoning packet. So because of that, we need to make sure that we're adding plenty of flavor. So we want it to be good. We want our family that, in spite of the fact that we're trying to get them healthier, we also want them to eat. So let's get all the skin off, and let's get this baby diced up. This baby did not want to lose its skin, as you can see, so I've divided it in half, and that's just going to make it easier to take that upper layer off. All right, we're adding 1 large onion to the mix. We're also going to add some bell pepper. Let's get those prepared. Stalks. So if you have nice plump stalks of celery, probably 4 will do, but you want at least 2 cups of celery, 2 heaping cups of onions, and of course we want 2 cups of peppers, and the same with the carrots. Okay, celery, onions are in the pot. Let's get those peppers. I picked some up the other day, but they were just a little bit tiny. So I had one that was a pretty substantial size. Let's get it rinsed off. All right, pepper's done. We've got carrots. See, we've made our nice flat end. So then I'm going to cut these into about thirds and then dice. Okay, our carrots have been diced. Let's add them to the mix. I left out a few, and I'll just eat those for lunch. But we have more than enough carrots for our soup. All right, so we have in our crock pot, we have carrots, we have green peppers, we've got onions, we've got all of those goodies that are in here. And now we're going to just kind of give everything a little zhuzh. Let me get a good spoon. Find my spurtle. Give everything a good stir so that those aromatics have a chance to be all over the pot rather than in just one area. Okay, now I'm going to use my secret weapon. My secret weapon when I'm preparing soups like this is using my Hunt's pasta sauce. And you know, I love that Hunt's pasta sauce. This is the Hunt's garlic and herb pasta sauce. And it has so much flavor. So we're going to open a can of this, add it to our crock pot. And then once we've done that, we'll season it up with a little no salt and some house seasoning. We're going to fill it with water or broth, whichever you have. And I'll have to check and see how much broth I have, especially vegetarian broth. And if not, I'll use water. And from there, I'm going to put the top on it and let our baby cook for the rest of the day. Hunt's pasta sauce is a great item to have on your shelf because there are just so many ways that you can use it to enhance what you're preparing. And because it already has some seasoning in it, that just saves you a little bit. So this one can of Hunt's pasta sauce is about $2 and something. And so we're going to be able to put this soup together for less than, wait for it, less than $5. Now, you know, all Italian mamas have to add some water because we're not leaving all of that down in the bottom. All right, we'll recycle and then we'll be ready to continue. Another thing that I keep on my shelf, so just in case I don't have any boxes of vegetable stock and I don't have any in the freezer, then I can always use my Better Than Bouillon vegetable base. And this is a reduced sodium option. So I'm going to take some of this, put it into our crock pot and maybe and get it into some liquid. I'm going to start with a heaping teaspoon, and that should be more than enough, to be honest with you. And if I need to add more later when it's time to taste, then I will. I have just about 1/4 cup of liquid coconut aminos. I'm going to add all of that because that's flavor as well. So I'm using that up. Now while we're mixing, and like I said, I have not added a lot of liquid. The only liquid that's in here is just a little bit that you've seen from where I rinsed that can out. But I do want to get the flavors mixed up down in the soup. So as it's cooking, all of that's going to cook well. I'm also going to get another teaspoon, and you know, I like to use my dehydrated vegetables because we always want our family to have as many vegetables as possible. And this is a great way to be able to do it. They don't even see it. They don't even think about it. So I'm going to put in 1, 2, and 3. And I'll try to remember to link the short that I did on these dehydrated vegetables, what to do, and how to have your own jar. So those are our dehydrated vegetables, 3 teaspoons. I'm also going to add, here's our no salt. And I'm just going to use this teaspoon rather than my little spice spoon. But I'm going to add a heaping teaspoon and a half of no salt seasoning. And that's just your Mrs. Dash. Excuse me. I'm also going to add, this has the pepper, a teaspoon of our house seasoning, which is garlic powder, onion powder, and pepper in equal parts. All here, ready to go. So that's done. I just put in 1 teaspoon at this point because we don't want to, at this point, over season, but we want to make sure we have lots of good seasonings ready to go. So I'm just going to stick that spoon right there. I'm going to take the one that's wet and do a little mixing so that all of the dehydrated vegetables as well as the seasonings can get down into that liquid. Oh yeah. All right, this is going to be amazing. I can smell the goodness already. Now, we're going to add more liquid to our mixture, enough to bring it up to the top, and then I'm going to place the top on it, get the top cleaned off, because we don't want this part to cook onto our crock pot. And typically, I don't use a liner unless I'm preparing something that I know is going to stick badly. So we have our liquids in here. I'm going to add the water and then we'll be ready to go. I found that I did have 1 quart of vegetable stock that was lurking in my freezer. So I have placed it into the microwave and now it's ready to go in. So I'm going to fill my crock pot up to a pretty reasonable level. Now, because we're using beans and this is a 15 bean soup, you know that a very large portion of this liquid is going to be taken up by the beans, because that's what beans do. They soak up the liquid. So I'm going to give all this a good zhuzh, and in about 3 hours, I'll come back, check it to see what the levels are, and if I need to add more liquid, I will. I'll also taste it at that time to see if we need to adjust the seasonings. But you know what? This is a wonderful day to be able to have something nice and warm and toasty. Anytime you're on a vegetarian journey, then you want to make sure that you have things that are available. Now, are we going to be able to eat all of this in one night? Of course not. And the good thing is about soups like this that we prepare in our crock pot is the fact that it's good today. Oh, it's going to be wonderful today. But tomorrow or the next day, a couple of days from now, whoo,
is going to make you smack your mama, because it's really going to be delicious, because all of the flavors are going to have a chance to go through every bean and all of the liquid, and it's going to be absolutely, as my granddaughter would say, fabulous. So let's put the top on it and we're ready to go. I love the fact that I can take my top off completely and it just sits there. It will sit there very nicely. So good little cleanup here. And she's ready to go. So I'm going to get her plugged in. And I have my hot water container there, so should I need to add liquid, it won't be cold. It's going to be boiling hot. So we're going to pull this over, plug it in. And I'm running mine 4 hours on high. And voila, she's ready to go. Now, you know, with this particular meal, what is more comforting than a good skillet cornbread? And that's exactly what we're going to put together. Skillet cornbread, homemade, your kitchen. Let's do it. While our crock pot is bubbling away, we're going to come over here and we're going to make some cornbread. So the first thing I've done is to pour just a little bit of neutral oil into my cast iron, because that's what I usually use to prepare cornbread. So I'm just giving it a real good brush all around the sides as well as the bottom. So I got more than enough oil there for it to be able to come out nicely, and it's good for your cast iron as well. So our cast iron pan is ready. So there we go, that's done. And next, let's put the mix together for the cornbread. I have a cup of flour and a cup of yellow cornmeal. Let's get that mixed up. And we're going to add a few things to it. We need some baking powder, about 2 teaspoons. We need about a ½ teaspoon of baking soda. So once I get all this stirred up, then we'll add that. Now, I like mine just a little bit sweet. You don't have to add any sweetness to yours if you don't like it that way. You can use honey. You could drizzle with honey after it's all over. If you have a mixed audience at your table, you have those who don't like the sugar and you have those that do like the sugar, then just use honey at the end and drizzle a little bit of honey. Now let's put in at least a teaspoon, and I'm using a heaping teaspoon of sugar. There's 1. I think I'll put 1 more. 2, because I know this is going to prepare quite a bit. And we're going to need our baking powder and our baking soda. Okay, I have my baking powder. I use Clabber Girl. And that's what I have. So you might use another brand. That's up to you. I'm going to do a heaping, and that will be enough for the 2 bits of baking powder. Let's get that stirred in. We don't want a mouthful of any of this. I want to make sure we have plenty and that it is stirred around, because it does not taste good just to eat it. Okay. If you have some buttermilk, you can certainly use buttermilk, or you can do this with just milk. But I have some buttermilk that I need to make sure that I'm using, so I'm going to be using buttermilk with mine. Let's get that soda. All right, I'm going to add about a half teaspoon of baking soda. Just a little bit. Sprinkle that in well and stir well. Baking soda, baking powder, and we've added our cornmeal. All right, let's make a well in the center. I'm going to crack an egg. Get that mixed up. I'm going to beat it up. And put that in the well. And we're going to need about a cup and a half of buttermilk. But let me tell you, you're going to add it until it's the consistency of pancake batter, basically, or cake batter. So, but always make sure that you shake your buttermilk well. All right. And that's one. Now before I add any more, I'm going to stir this. See where we are. As you can see, we still have quite a bit of dry cornmeal and flour in this mixture. So it's a little too thick. So we're going to add about a half cup more. Do a little at a time. See where you are. You don't want any dry mix on the bottom. I'm going to add just a touch. There we go. So that was 1.5 cups of buttermilk. I'm also going to put in about 2 tablespoons of melted butter, or you could use olive oil if you wanted to. But let's face it, this is a southern recipe, so we're going to add a little bit of butter. Okay, I've melted our butter. I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of butter. And you know what? You can add shortening. You could use margarine. You could use, of course, canola oil, olive oil, any of that, whatever your preference is. So we're going to get all this mixed up well. That butter is going to go all through it. I'm going to let this sit a few minutes so that the cornmeal can soak up some of the goodies. And then I'll pour it into our cast iron. I'm going to put the oven on 400 and let it cook until it's nice and golden brown. Come on in.
It's a delicious soup. My only complaint is that I followed the instructions that were found on the ham beans container. And as far as the preparation, the pre prep for the beans, I soaked the beans overnight after rinsing them, and it said at least 8 hours. I did that. And of course, they cooked in the slow cooker on high for 6 hours. But you know what? Even after that 6 hours, there's some of the beans were still just a little more al dente than I like. So here's my suggestion. First of all, soak the beans all day and keep adding water to it so they will continue to soak up the water. Then, when you cook these, you may want to just cook it literally all day, low and slow, and taste them to make sure that the beans are exactly what you want. I did taste, but the beans that I got in my taste were perfect. Now, it may be that once that happens, that some of the beans may be a little softer than you like, but you know what? At least you won't have any crunch. So, we're learning as we go and we're trying new products. And when we do that, I have to be able to tell you what works and what doesn't. I got as close to $5 as I possibly could. And you know what? I ended up with not only dinner for tonight, but I also have enough left that I can prepare about 3 more meals. And so, wow, $5.41 was my total. Now, that is a budget friendly, money saving, time saving recipe. Now, as always, the recipe is down in the description box. And you know what? If you like these kinds of budget friendly meals, then come back because we're going to be right here in the kitchen cooking it up and doing something fun for the home cook.